In the last two videos, we were comparing the mind and the body, and we were talking about how when we have a diet, a good diet, when we exercise and so on, for the physical body, we need to do the same thing about the mind. And I hope it makes sense to you. But I'd like to today talk about one step beyond that, which is the spirit. So there's always the mind, body, and the spirit. So well being is actually related to all these three things. It's not enough for my body to be in good shape, even my mind to be in good shape. That's not good enough. If well being is the goal and the key, we also need to focus on the spirit, the spiritual well being. Oftentimes, people get confused between spirituality and religion. I'm not talking about religion. It doesn't matter what label one puts on himself or herself. Spirituality is something very, very different from religion. So, what exactly is spirituality? How does one practice that? How does one do it? And what are the benefits? We cannot just extract the principles that we talked about in the body and the mind and apply it here, because the spirit is different from the body and the mind. When I'm born, I get a brand new body and mind. When I die, that's gone. If I'm born again, then I get a brand new body and mind and so on. But the spirit remains the same. The spirit doesn't change. So, what exactly is spiritual well being, and how does one get into a good shape spiritually? The easiest definition that I can give is spirituality is about alignment. You see, if I get distracted by different things every single day, if my goals keep changing every single day, and I just keep jumping from one thing to another thing constantly, there is no way the spirit can be in good shape. So things, even though they may be compartmentalized, we talk about our personal lives, we have our friends, we have work related professional things and so on. It appears as if they're all self contained events in our life. But in reality, they're all connected. Every single thing is connected. I'll give you an analogy for this to explain this concept. If I take a piece of ferrite material, okay, now the difference between a ferrite material and a piece of plastic is that in a ferrite material, iron, if you take a piece of iron, right, the molecules are capable of aligning themselves. If you take a piece of plastic, it's a polymer, so it's a long chain, molecular chain. It cannot align itself. So the difference between human beings and animals cannot be spiritual. A dog cannot be spiritual. A horse cannot be spiritual. But you and I can be spiritual. And the reason for that is that it's just like the container, this body, this sharira as we call it, this body, this containment in which I exist, actually is capable of aligning itself. And that is a key, that's very important, because if it's incapable of aligning, it doesn't matter if I make my dog sit here and try to teach it spiritual things, that poor animal is incapable of understanding that and following that. Whereas a human being who sits here and listens and tries to practice is capable of doing that. So the question is, how does one align oneself? Well, then you have to ask yourself, how does a magnet become a magnet? Well, if you take a big magnet and if you take a piece of small ferrite material and if you keep rubbing constantly, what happens is that magnetic field that's in the big magnet will slowly align all the things inside this ferrite material. So the ferrite material itself becomes a magnet. So what we have to do is we have to constantly rub ourselves against those things that are aligned in a spiritual manner. It could be a person, it could be a concept, It could be something else. But some people like music, for example. So if you happen to like music, if that's your thing, then if you're listening to good classical music, that is one form of alignment. Some people might like to do meditation, as they call it, dhyana. You can do that, whatever you do. But the important thing is you need to align yourself with something or someone where things are aligned in one direction. And it's very easy to figure this out. Just like a magnet, you ask yourself, how do you test a magnet? So if you keep a ferrite material, if it gets attracted towards that thing, then it is magnetized. So we can get attracted to all sorts of things. So you got to be careful. But in a spiritual sense, if you find that something is well aligned, and it's been aligned for a long time, it's not something that happened yesterday, so there cannot be change. For example, if you take a magnet, the North Pole is the North Pole, South Pole is the South Pole. It doesn't keep changing. So you have to look for that stability and alignment either in a concept or an individual or something else. And where it has been aligned and behaving the same way for a long, long time. And you have to rub yourself on that. So if you're constantly in the company of those thoughts, in the company of that person or the company of that idea, and it constantly rubs on you, what you find is that over time you actually become what you might call, quote unquote, spiritual, which has nothing to do with religion. So what exactly is spiritual then? Well, if you are aligned, what you will find is that every single thing that happens to you physically or mentally, you will have an explanation for that which is aligned with one single concept. And some of the religious people may say God, but the thing is that the presence of some force, whatever you may call it, the presence of a force that is all-knowing, all-powerful, and all-pervasive. You want to call it by name, go ahead. But that powerful force that is universally all-pervasive, all-knowing, and all-powerful, that is what is going to be your alignment with. And that is spirituality.